morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Daytime live from St. Thomas. My name is Sean Avram.
My name is Sarah.
No surprise that I am the father of twins, and when you're diagnosed with twins, you get pushed off sometimes to specialists. I have one of the people that helped me along the way, and my wife along the way too. She was part of the process, I guess. With the twins, Dr. Steve Blackwell is here. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Steve Blackwell. Now, are you still with London Health Science Center, LHSC? But you have an office now in St. Thomas.
We're opening one at the
new place
center on First Ave.
Right. Yeah. That's good.
So they call you in as soon as you hear that there's going to be a multiple. Then you're called in to help out with those situations.
Not so much anymore, but that used to be the play. I'm more into the research now. But
yeah, I see you got like a lot of research here. I always try to keep up with it because like I was surprised as soon as we were told that we're going to have twins. It was like, boom, you got to go see this guy because he's a head researcher. And then all the information that we had. St. Thomas has so many multiple births. It was just nuts. There used to be a club for multiples. And
oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not as special a thing in St. Thomas, I guess. We're all.
Well, they must try to recruit you for those double Mick commercials all the time.
Something in the water.
Yeah, something with boy-girl twins, it doesn't really work because, well, they're not identical, right? Great, so tell us about your research.
Well, it's actually a fairly new, relatively new field in the scientific arena. It's known as intrinsic research. And what we do is we pick a theme which typically seems to be lasting for about 2 years at the moment, and then we scour the scientific community, the research papers and so on, to see if we can find something that is sort of buried in the research that may relate to our theme. So that's the intrinsic component of it. So what happens essentially is you end up drawing conclusions that people would normally never think, looking at this.
Well, I knew, like, withholding caffeine. Like, I just reading through your things here, I would always think that caffeine's bad for you, so you should stop having caffeine if you're pregnant, right? Like, isn't that true?
Well, there's always a risk with too much of anything.
Right.
And we do recommend that pregnant women don't drink caffeine at all, but some will. And so we just there's sort of a negative effect that goes on here we've discovered with our research, and that is that if you are drinking caffeine into the pregnancy and then you stop, that it actually, the fetus is used to this and responds to the fact that there's something being withdrawn.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Well, because it's an addictive sort of chemical, right?
Yeah, and what we've discovered as well is that it's a food sensitivity, which we know has always had a bearing on ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So what happens, what we're discovering now with our research is that this actually does show up in the formative years, and that we need more research, of course, but there's certainly something leading to that conclusion at this point.
Right, so you should just, like, if you have Tim Hortons every morning and then you get pregnant, you should just keep going.
I'm of course not going to suggest that,
right? But the research
we're finding something interesting in the research.
Well, I mean, the thing that amazed me about pregnancy is you hear all these, you hear so many different stories and so many different rumors, and then to try to filter out what's actually true and what isn't true. And some people go to extremes and avoid every little bit of caffeine, and other people are more moderate, and it's sort of tough to know what to do sometimes,
I've always known that you're not supposed to paint. Like, if you're pregnant and people, it's hazardous to the pregnant mom if you're painting. But like like cement residue.
Oh, that's a very interesting
one.
Yeah, it's a small
The safety
study.
guy in me likes to know that because I dealt a lot with respiratory protection, right? So
what we did was, it's been known for quite a while that cement is, if you don't handle it properly while you're in the construction industry, it can cause respiratory problems, and I think it's pretty plain that the active ingredient in cement is calcium silicate hydrate.
Right.
So just as breathing silica
which is
can lead to a specific
substance.
lung disease, there's evidence that this also, if you're in prolonged exposure, if you're not taking precautions. What we didn't know, which is the kind of thing that our research delves into, is that there actually is a residue of this powder on construction sites that have used cement extensively. So, like, say, a foundation for a house, or if the apartment building or whatever is made of cement. And it's not so much the powder that's left over from new cement, but it's actually,
like, you just stick
it's actually eroding, coming off the existing structure. So what we recommend, and there's a very defined period. It seems to be about 6 months And after that, there's no longer any of this stuff present in the environment. But
so anyone moving into like a new housing
we're
project,
recommending that
right?
you don't live in new environments that have extensively used cement because of the research that we're discovering.
Wow.
That's interesting, because that's the first time I've ever heard that statistic.
All
but
of this stuff is fairly groundbreaking.
I guess so. And you're saying this information has been out there for a while, and you sort of go in and...
Well, the initial research about cement and its toxicity and its effect on the lungs and that has been around for a while. What we do is we go in and we find new twists and new spins in there that people don't think about typically.
Now you specialize in multiples, so how does that differ when you're looking at multiples versus sort of single babies?
We haven't actually done any testing on multiples.
No?
We haven't divided the research in any way at all.
So you're just looking in
we're
general
looking
at
at
how it
single
affects.
births, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing too I saw was like leather. Like what if you had like a leather couch and you're pregnant, so you're got your feet up and you're hanging out on your leather couch? It said anyone's worked with like a lot of leather or stuff. Like,
well,
is there chemicals there that?
Apparently there are two major approaches to tanning leather. One of them is vegetative or something. There's it's a vegetable based. But the other, which is still extremely popular because of the results that it produces, is a very nice supple leather that comes out, is chromium sulfate, and that's still used extensively in the leather industry.
Well,
so
if chromium sulfate.
Yeah, and so if you're around, if you spend a lot of time around the industry, especially if you work in a tanning factory or whatever, you're going to be breathing some of these particles.
So if you ever worked in like leather retail or anything, you'd probably be in trouble.
Leather retail, there's still some residual effect, and that's the interesting thing that we discovered. You wouldn't have thought so, but we're seeing that there is some residual
What
effect.
if you drive like an SUV with like
Leather interiors?
leather interiors and stuff?
Any of those things.
Brunettes,
See,
if you're like a natural brunette, that's like another...
Well, these are
another
things,
thing
and that's the kind of work that we do all the
people
time,
who are
okay?
pregnant.
Is we draw these things that apparently seem weird. We actually draw the connections.
So I guess what we can say is like if you work anywhere near a construction site...
Just remember, this is the effect on the fetus, okay, which is
if you've
much
ever
more
had
sensitive
caffeine,
than an adult.
or that your baby's in risk.
That's very scary.
It is, isn't it? Unfortunately, none of it's true. This is actually my good friend. This is actually my good friend Steve Ogden, who's an accomplished
I'm so sorry.
improv actor.
Oh my gosh!
We'll just rip this
Oh,
up.
I'm so scared right now. You're so mean. For those of you who don't know, I'm pregnant. I work for a new home builder. I used to work for a leather company.
And you gave up caffeine.
And I gave up caffeine, yeah.
We didn't even get into the effects of lights.
Oh yeah.
I think I've just negatively affected my fetus actually right now from the heart attack I almost had.
And she was wondering if I was going to do anything.
Oh my goodness, I can't even believe it. Thank you. Happy April Fool's to you.
That was
too.
awesome. You can check Steve Ogden out. He's involved in community theater all over the place. You got a play coming up in the next
I'm
little bit.
actually
don't
involved
you?
in 3 projects right now.
projects?
One is The Prisoner of Second Ave in Elmer that runs towards the end of May. A fundraiser in Port Stanley Theatre runs the middle of May, and I'm directing for the London One Act Festival.
Fantastic. Steve also is one of the #1 guys that we call every time we do murder mystery dinner theaters. Obviously his improvisational skills are immaculate. Thanks for doing that.
I'm done for the show.
We're going to take a break and recover.